Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande. Hari Bol. Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. Reading from Srila Prabhupada, Lilamrita, in every town and village. Prabhupada mentioned his desire to preach in Russia, which was a great field for Krishna consciousness because the people were open-minded and hadn't been polluted by sense gratification. He wanted to introduce Krishna conscious literature in Russia through a library or a reading room or in whatever way possible. Krishna conscious philosophy, he said, should be taught to Russia's most intelligent people. But because of government's restrictions, Ivan taken to Krishna was like a hungry man eating a meal. After several hours, however, he and his friend had to go. They would return the next day. In the summer, he spent time with Ivan and Narayan. Ivan, a student of Oriental philosophies, was very intelligent and eager to know what was going on in the outside world. He was fond of the Beatles, and Prabhupada told him of his association. Somebody explained to him how Krishna consciousness was the basic principle of all spiritual paths. Swami taught him basic principles of Bhakti Yoga, such as chanting the prescribed 16 rounds of japa daily, and gave him his own copy of Bhagavad Gita as it is. Prabhupada showed Ivan how to prepare chapatis and rice and asked him to give up eating meat. Joyfully, Ivan accepted the chanting, the new way of eating, everything. Ivan was being trained so that after Prabhupada left, Ivan could continue on his own. Ivan would have Ivan would be able to feel himself changing and advancing in spiritual life. And after practicing for some time, he could be initiated. Ivan said he would tell his friends about Krishna consciousness. With only 2 days left in Moscow, Prabhupada taught Ivan as much as he could. In this young Russian's eagerness and intelligence, Prabhupada found the real purpose of his visit to Russia. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 11, Text number 5. Yadi va pradane shraddha, yadi va pradane shraddha, saram va kshulaka hridi, saram va kshulaka hridi, agre tishtata matram me, agre tishtata matram me, na ched gramya sukhe spriha, na ched gramya sukhe spriha. Yadiva pradane shraddha sarambakshulaka hridi agre tishtata matram me nachet gramya sukhe spriha yadiva pradane shraddha sarambakshulaka hridi agre tishtata matram me nachet gramya sukhe spriha. Yadiva pradane shraddha saramvakshulaka hridi agre tishtata matram me nachet gramya sukhe spriha yadiva pradane shraddha saramvakshulaka hridi agre tishtata matram me nachet gramya sukhe spriha yadiva pradane shraddha sarambakshulaka hridi agre tishtata matram me nachet gramya sukhe spriha yadi if pa of you pradhane in battle shraddha faith saram patience va or shulaka or insignificant ones Vridi in the core of the heart agre in front tishtata just stand matram for a moment me of me na not chit if gram yasuke in sense gratification spridha desire. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. O insignificant demigods, if you truly have faith in your heroism, if you have patience in the course of your hearts, and if you are not ambitious for sense gratification, please stand before me for a moment. Responsibly, please. O insignificant demigods, if you truly have faith in your heroism, if you have patience in the course of your hearts, and if you are not ambitious for sense gratification, please stand before me for a moment. Purport. Rebuking the demigods, Vritrasura challenged, O demigods, if you are actually heroes, stand before me now and try to show your prowess. If you do not wish to fight, if you are afraid of losing your lives, I shall not kill you, for, unlike you, I am not so evil-minded as to kill persons who are neither heroic nor willing to fight. If you have faith in your heroism, please stand before me. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shirupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shirada Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute तप्त कंचना गौरंगी राधे वृंदवनेश्वरी वृषभानु सुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. By the mercy of spiritual master, blind man can see the stars, lame man can cross the mountains, and dumb man can speak eloquently. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances and the lotus feet of my spiritual master. So the translation again. O insignificant demigods, if you truly have faith in your heroism, if you have patience in the course of your hearts, and if you are not ambitious for sense gratification, please stand before me for a moment. So this chapter is entitled The Transcendental Qualities of Vritra Sura. So one lesson we are learning here is that, somebody may externally look like a demon, just like yesterday I think that picture was displayed. It may not look very kind of attractive physically or etc. But one can be a devotee in the heart, and that what is manifested or how to recognize a devotee is by devotional qualities. And here in this chapter we will be analyzing and looking at the devotional qualities. It's very, very powerful too. Just like we glorify the Lord and glorify His qualities and pastimes, it's considered to glorify devotees is also as good as glorifying the Lord. One makes a lot of spiritual advancement. One makes a lot of spiritual advancement by glorifying devotees and recognizing and finding and meditating on their good qualities. So in this chapter we have opportunity to look at those devotional qualities of Vritasura. As it was mentioned, he actually was great devotee and is still great devotee in the past life, but as a matter of circumstances, he was born as a demon. So here we see, some of the things that he's exemplifying. He is here challenging the demigods to stand forward in a battle. And of course, we not necessarily have a physical battle in our life, but sometimes we have to battle for what we believe is true, and what we learn is true from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. As you can see, Srila Prabhupada himself was a fighter. Many times he exemplified, this great general. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the word is used, Senapati, is actually prediction of Srila Prabhupada. Many devotees, senior devotees, they understand and explain that the Senapati Bhakta that is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, great general, which means Senapati is a great general that's going to come and establish Krishna consciousness around the world. And as you can see, it was definitely a great battle. There was not much support from his god brothers. He pleaded for their support, and again, nobody wanted to help. And he kind of struggled really hard. And then, he was very with great determination and faith and inspiration. And actually, he said, with a great faith in the holy name. He had this phenomenal deep faith in the holy name. That was one of the main weapons. You had this faith that Westerners, no matter how much fallen they are, etc., simply by chanting the holy name, they can become brahmanas, become purified. So over those 11 years, you really fighted, or not fighted, fought um, for Krishna consciousness to get established, and is described that in one of the main weapons was a pen. So sometimes even how a pen can be a weapon. But interestingly enough, the word for weapon is shastra, and I think it's just the emphasis different in Sanskrit. Shastra and shastra. I don't know which one is which one, but one of them refers to weapon, and another weapon is the scripture. Um, so, scripture and writing word, Prabhupada said, very often various types of movements and etc. They spread, like it says that communism, for example, spread in India by publishing a lot of literature and distributing, and that kind of risen a lot of people against like a kind of capitalism, or or at some parts of India anyway. And there is like in India, I think maybe it's changing now, but from what I understood, is still quite socially minded, because of that influence of communist literature. Is that correct, or is it losing a little bit? So yeah, India is very socially minded because of the influence and the literature and etc. So so propagation of this literature and the values of Srimad Bhagavatam is one of the most powerful weapons to bring the revolution in the misdirected lives in the lives of misdirected civilization. Is again and again actually it is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam that is to bring the revolution, is to bring a revolution, and it has to be a revolution in our own lives. It's a battle. It's definitely a battle, and it requires, some heroism. Requires some heroism to kind of face our own anarthas. It requires the courage to face our anarthas, our weaknesses, and etc., and to transform our lives, purify our lives, and to really absorb ourselves into hearing and chanting. It's such an important principle. As I mentioned yesterday, I was studying a devotee care course that I did, and Gauranga Prabhu was saying, the importance of spiritualizing our existence through powerful hearing and chanting. Speaking that the number one priority in terms of devotee care is to establish hearing and chanting as a top priority in one's life, as we read today as well, that Lord Chaitanya said, he was asked, what is the most important principle in devotional life? And it says the chanting the holy name. So the Lord himself said that. Krishna himself, when he was asked, what is the most important principle of devotional service? It says it's the holy name is not something to be neglected, minimized. You have to live our life in such a way that we can be chanting the best possible quality japa. So it has to be, very, and is actually top priority is how to live our life to chant top quality japa. And also it has to be combined with Srimad Bhagavatam as well, which also goes under category of hearing and chanting the names, glories, and pastimes of the Lord, because it establishes for us who is the holy name. And when we do it with understanding, we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, we inquire, we purify our existence, then it purifies, as Gauranga Prabhu was explaining, is purifies our consciousness and our interactions. It becomes transcendental. It raises from the mundane platform of social, and together with the mundane problems and disagreements and the challenges and etc. And it will be never ending unless that is the top priority. Krishna Katha, Krishna Kirtan, Krishna's name, Harinam Ruchi, unless that is a priority, there will be never end to any material problems. They cannot be. There is no material solution to material problems. And of course, there are some tools and etc. Various things can be done and very helpful. But the foundation has to be this very, very powerful hearing and chanting. And if we then employ various tools and etc. on that basis, building on that basis, then they will be effective in the long term and will be sustainable. But if you just remove Krishna out of the picture and just try to employ some tools, it's just not going to work. So Krishna has to be there, prominent into our life, into our existence. And every morning we're trying to invite and install Krishna in our hearts, so that throughout the day then we can worship him. And when we speak, our mind is elevated or purified. When we speak, the transcendental sound vibration will uplift people consciousness, will make the preaching effective, and etc. So yeah, some heroism is required in our personal life, to face our matters, to face the things that need to be faced, and then sharing Krishna consciousness with courage, with determination, with inspiration, establishing the Srimad Bhagavatam. So there's a principle called Achar, and Lord Chaitanya was discussing it with Haridas Thakur. One's character has to be impeccable. So that's the idea of hearing and chanting and purifying one's existence, that one can display a devotional character. Because Prabhupada says many times in the books, if you don't display devotional character, obviously with trying not to, you should not criticize others who are not displaying. But at the same time, he says that is not very high devotee who is not displaying devotional qualities, because devotional qualities is something that develops, by sincere devotion and purification. And so this is called Achar. And Lord Chaitanya was saying to Haridas Thakur that you are a perfect preacher because you are exemplifying in your own life, and then you are sharing this. And of course, in Kali Yuga, it's difficult to find good qualities. It's an ocean of bad qualities, but it says there is one good quality, is chanting the holy name of the Lord. So should really recognize somebody who's very sincerely chanting the holy name. This is with great determination and focus and etc. This is what will bring all advancement, and the things that we might be lacking as well, by emphasizing the holy name culture, the Krishna Katha, and etc. And not just for a short periods, but as a foundational principle in spiritual life that has to be sustained, throughout one's life. It is described that even in a perfection, the hearing and chanting continues. There is no place when it ever stops. And it's just the quality of hearing and chanting, and the focus of hearing and chanting changes. In the beginning, it's like more in the purification and anartha nivriti, and then later on, this hearing and chanting brings this beautiful attraction to Krishna that ultimately matures in love for Krishna and pure devotion for Krishna, and eventually this very same holy name reveals to us our eternal spiritual identity. So, but through this combination of Srimad Bhagavatam, understanding what is right and what is wrong, who is Krishna, and then chanting in such a way. But how that is, some acharyas like Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that is not even possible to overcome anarthas. So this has to be a combination of both. If you just, unless you chant the holy name purely, those anarthas will still fester in the heart. Just like we heard from Prabhupada Prana Prabhu in Chaitanya Chaitamrita, there's many, gross things, and then there's many subtle things that manifest. And then, they has to be kind of dealt with. And if you neglect and hearing and chanting, those things will kind of remain and fester in the heart, and it will cover the creeper of devotion. So this is, very important point of heroism, is to actually be heroic in your hearing and chanting. Be heroic in recognizing what is the anartha, be heroic to understand, how to deal with it and overcome it and purify it. So that is very, very important aspect. And so this is called achar. And then with that qualities, with this purification, one existence, then when one goes sharing, that will have an effect. And that without that, unless we establish this as a foundation, and that now, our movement and leaders are pushing for devotee care as make a top priority in temples, because without that, no matter, and that's Radhana Swami explains, no matter how many different projects we do, they will not be sustainable, and Krishna does empower a different kind of emphasis. If you emphasize, book distribution, millions and millions of books have been distributed. If you emphasize, building some nice palatial buildings for Krishna, and Krishna will empower that too. But the most important asset that is there in the Krishna consciousness movement are devotees. Without devotees, no project will be sustainable, no project will last. And without devotees being inspired, connected with Krishna, and etc., they will come and go. So therefore, making a top priority devotee care. Um, if devotees are inspired, devotees are happy, and devotees are Krishna conscious, all those projects will flourish automatically. And there is not just in the beyond the physical capacity, because everybody's got a certain capacity as well, but with the empowerment, with the powerful hearing and chanting, with the purity. So lots of wonderful and beautiful things that will happen. So Radhanath Swami and kind of started this revolution of devotee care, and this kind of ripple effects is spreading all around the world. The devotee care has to become our top priority, and when that becomes a top priority, many wonderful projects will be sustainable, and they will last. And another thing, so that is called achar. So with devotional qualities, with inspiration in Krishna consciousness, and then our preaching, it will have a lasting effect. It will it will have a lasting effect and attract people to Krishna consciousness, because we need examples. We need examples, further along the line, to see that the Krishna consciousness process is is working, is purifying existence of the devotees, and that at all stages of life, actually, the acharyas explain, we need devotees who will exemplify and take us further in our Krishna consciousness. And with this achar, then comes prachar. Then we are then sharing Krishna consciousness will be very effective. And then the next point that is mentioned here is that there's some patience. There's some patience is required as well. So it will not happen overnight. It will take some time when the purification will take place, and certain anarthas they will not go away overnight. But again, with powerful hearing and chanting, those anarthas become kind of less prominent and less impediment. We all kind of experience when we are in a good spiritual shape, the things that we are struggling with, and or we used to struggle, they become like almost invisible, and sometimes we think maybe even maybe already overcome the anartha. It's not, maybe it's not there. But then, our hearing and chanting, if it becomes reduced or compromised, or sometimes some strong anartha comes out, then we have to increase our hearing and chanting to kind of stay above those anarthas and those impurities and those impediments. Uh, so by having this strong sadhana and promoting the culture of hearing and chanting in a temple, a lot of things that are um, kind of difficulties in a personal life and struggles in a personal life, and also more like individually and collectively, they start to subside. There's a various interesting things that Prabhupada did as well. They called it kirtan management. There was sometimes challenges the devotees were going through, and we encouraged the kirtan management devotees like coming together and doing lots of chanting. And then, because anyway, that is the essential thing in Kali Yuga. And also, we are called the Hare Krishnas. We're actually called the Hare Krishna movement. So you have to make sure that we are doing that sufficiently, or we are doing it properly, or we are doing it with attention. It is actually it's an art to chant Hare Krishna. We should not become ritualistic in our chanting the holy name. We should not neglect quality of chanting. And as mentioned, chanting includes studying the transcendental literature, discussing the transcendental literature. We have some, almost like a direct instructions in the letters that Srila Prabhupada written to Scottish devotees, and we had the chance to look through them on the 50th anniversary of Srila Prabhupada visiting Scotland. He said, study and hear from different points of view and different angles of view this transcendental literature, and that will give a deep understanding how to present and how to share it and how to overcome anarthas. And as we're studying in Chaitanya Charitamrita, how to sift as well. You can lose awareness of what is right and what is wrong, what is Krishna conscious and what is not Krishna conscious. If our hearing and chanting is compromised, what is anartha is not anartha. What is our aspirations? That actually Gauranga Prabhu was saying in the in devotee care course, that our aspirations become purified, because the living entity is obviously looking for ananda, looking for bliss. But if it's not finding bliss in hearing and chanting, it will try to find somewhere else. So therefore, this strong and powerful hearing and chanting, it purifies aspirations of a devotee, the direction where we want to go. It reminds us the direction where we want to go. It reminds us the means that how to get there, and it brings us forward the obstacles that can be there. Uh, so we cannot be underemphasized. This he says, that number one priority for devotee care is to establish the culture of hearing and chanting, spiritual care, and so many wonderful things will come out. And is and that is the purpose of devotee care committee, that devotees identify with ISKCON as a caring society, that they feel this kind of sense of belonging and a sense of care, and the devotees, as Radhana Swami explains, that they are happy to stay in the movement for the rest of their life, that they are happy to serve and stay and dedicate their life for the rest of their life, and through that commitment and a sense of feeling of family, they carry on with the process of hearing and chanting, and that what is gonna purify, and that is gonna purify the heart and lead us towards ultimate goal of life. And so, yeah, of course, the patience it has to be is very important and required in this process, and seeing examples of devotees who are Krishna conscious. Um, so, are there any questions or comments on these points? Yes, please.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. I'm wondering, say here at Bhagavatam, for example, we've got a lot of projects going on and not that many devotees in comparison, maybe. So we find sometimes devotees are so busy with different services that maybe this priority isn't always apparent. I'm wondering kind of how to deal with that.
Mhm. Yes, so I mentioned Radhanath Swami speaks a lot about this, that whatever devotees emphasize, Krishna will empower. And there's so many different kinds of emphasis throughout the history of ISKCON has been there. There was a tremendous emphasis on book distribution, and there also very beautiful temples has been built, many wonderful projects has been done. But his realization after analyzing many years, that actually the top priority has to be devotee care, because without devotees, no project will be successful. Without devotees being inspired and Krishna conscious, the projects will lack Krishna's mercy in terms of being empowered and sustainable, and etc. So his realization was that devotee care has to be a top priority, and if that will be the top priority, and then all those projects will sustain themselves. So you know, and that what the devotee care committee is trying to do is that this goes to the forefront. This priority goes to the forefront of the movement, and all the leaders are emphasizing in ISKCON that this has to be the top priority, and it has to be this deep understanding as well of what it actually means to care for devotees. And so, yes, sometimes we just have to look into it and see, time after time, just like in our personal life, we have to look what is our priorities. Sometimes even if we have a certain desire or aspiration to go somewhere, to be someone, to achieve something in the Krishna consciousness, as a devotee, time after time, we have to review it. We have to review, like sometimes as like we can get lost a little bit routine for reading. Sometimes we can become too mechanical with our chanting, or neglect association of devotees, uh, etc. And then when we notice this, and then we can um, review it and reprioritize it in our life. So time after time, Mahatma Prabhu sometimes says about taking reinitiation every year. So not like a literally, but like a recommitting. Often devotees have a certain milestone throughout the year where they recommit. So for a lot of devotees is when they write offering to Srila Prabhupada, and they really kind of meditate on what Prabhupada is giving us and what direction he wants us to go, and you make that recommitment and refocus, of what is actually important, what is actually of true value. Or like pandemic has been very great awakening for many people, because it kind of really helped people to see what is actually important, but they couldn't associate so closely. The human interaction was lacking, and etc. Dear ones, near ones and dear ones were separated from each other, and and also uh, lots of people become more interested in spiritual life, because they start to understand, there's so many external things and we can focus, but actually there is more important things. There's more important things in life. So in the same way. So it can be done individually as we refocus. It can be done as well collectively, kind of when noticing that something needs to be refocused and something that could be. And also we are praying actually every single day, praying for happy devotees. So you have to analyze what actually would make devotees happy. And there are, a number of points that has been analyzed actually before the devotee care course has kind of become manifested. And it was like a work of number of years. It's a good few years when the leaders and the devotee care committee were analyzing what is actually important and what a care means, on a different levels. And then identified, groups of care, there's objects of care that has been identified, and how to care, starting from the spiritual care up to so many other aspects that are there, education, and all sorts of different aspects. So it has been before they started to teach, it was a good few years they're trying to understand and get on the same page what it actually means, because everybody will have a different idea as well of what care means. So they actually spend a good amount of time deepening understanding until they developed, this course of what actually the care means. So by understanding and deepening, and so we are praying to the deities for happy devotees. How we can achieve that? It has to be. It is our priority, but we need to really think about it and find practical steps, what it actually means and how we're gonna get there. And Radhana Swami says the happy devotee is the best preacher. So this is, he feels this is a top priority. Is and with the happy devotees, then everything else will flourish, and everything will be sustainable, and devotees will stay. And even in the material world now, in the companies, they are just interested in the profit, but they realize, that investing so much time in training people, to be whichever they, gonna contribute in that specific profession. But if the person is not feeling happy in the company, is not feeling appreciated and encouraged, then the companies lose the people. They go into some other company or somebody offers a better salary and etc. So now, but they're just thinking about profit and how to reduce the costs. But is becoming in a management the top priority is the well-being of an employee. Is considered the human resource department is considered the heartbeat of the company, the very very essence. And actually, human resource department is even in a many progressive companies is outside of direct management of the leaders, and so that it can actually say, look, the employees are not getting looked properly after. Because if they are directly, then it may change. They may not be able to speak up. So the human resource department is outside of this hierarchical management structure, so that they can actually provide a proper care and well-being for the employees. And then if employees are happy, the projects flourish, there's a productivity is a lot higher, the people stay, when people don't go away from the organization. But obviously their still purpose is the profit. But our purpose is not even that devotees work harder or the devotees distribute more books. This is going to be the byproduct of devotees Krishna consciousness. This is called International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We are all here to become Krishna conscious. We have to remember that is our ultimate goal, and it's easy to forget. It's easy to get carried away by daily routine. That we are here, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. It's not International Society for book distribution. It's not International Society for building the temples. It's not International Society for this and that, and a third project is for Krishna consciousness. This is the essence of it, and everything else has to be based on that principle. And if not, it's just not gonna last. It's just not gonna be sustainable. There will be some problem somewhere along the line, that something that's gonna fall apart. And each an individual devotee, there isn't, as His Holiness Shivaram Swami explains, there is individual goal, and there is we have a institutional goal, but the institutional goal is to propagate Krishna consciousness. But what is the idea of propagating Krishna consciousness is that each individual devotee who comes to Krishna conscious movement become fully Krishna conscious and goes back to Godhead. So we have to not neglect to understand that we need to help each individual devotee to achieve that goal. And these two things has to go parallel, line in line, without being forgotten. And this is why we are here, to become Krishna conscious. To become Krishna conscious, and that has to remain a priority. And that is the ultimately what means to truly care for devotees, is actually help them to become Krishna conscious and to try to understand what will make them Krishna conscious. Definitely, it's going to be, very strong emphasis on hearing and chanting individually and collectively. So I hope that answers your question. Sorry, it was quite prolonged. Are there any other questions or comments?
Thank you, Prabhu, for the class. Very nice learning points. If you could explain what should be the mood and understanding in doing japa.
Srila Prabhupada, the very, very simple answer to this is, and of course you heard it many, many times, but we can actually look at it a little bit at it and analyze it and try to break it down a little bit. So he says, like a baby crying for mother. So there's a few things there when baby is crying for mother. One is that sense of helplessness, and a sense of dependency, and a sense of seeking for protection, and sense of relying on mother to resolve whatever the problems the baby has. That there is like a hunger, or some inconvenience, or maybe past stool and urine, and it's being in that mess, is causing the baby to cry. And you can see like a Draupadi, she exemplified this mood when she was going through this struggle and trouble. So it has to be really a mood of calling. And but the thing is that in order to call properly, we have to realize, in what difficulty we are. And that's again interacting with Shastra. It helps us to understand and see how we are out of alignment, how we can be out of alignment. It reminds us, and by seeing that, then we call, please Krishna, help me, please purify me, the specific anartha, or the specific challenge. So every day we're trying to reconnect with something that will really make us call and cry for Krishna, and for Krishna's mercy, and for Krishna's help. It could be the same thing, it could be a different thing every day, because it is a dynamic process. And then if it's become mechanical, then we lose that sense of calling. And with mechanical chanting, it will be a lot slower. The progress and purification will a lot slower, or maybe even can come to standstill. So we have to really keep it dynamic, our chanting. And again, by studying Srimad Bhagavatam, it will help us to keep our chanting dynamic, because when we sit down to chant, from what you studied yesterday, the kind of picture of Krishna, in a sense, because Bhagavatam is not different from Krishna, it will be there in our consciousness, in our hearts, that will be very consciously, will be a lot more consciously chanting. and we'll be a lot more conscious of who we are, and we'll be a lot more conscious of what is the goal, and we'll be a lot more conscious of the practice. It will intensify tivrena bhakti yogena. That means intense practice. When we see where we are and we see where we need to go, then we can fill that gap with intensity. And we really, really want to go forward and achieve where we want to go. And that can be aiming for ultimate goal, or it can be aiming for, for some next step in Krishna consciousness. But, each next step, His Holiness Shivaram Swami explains, has to be energized by understanding what is the ultimate goal. So whatever the next step is, we may be called anartha nivritti, and our next step is to overcome a specific anartha, or maybe steadiness in general, nishta. But what will energize that effort is to meditate on the ultimate goal, and seeing examples as well of people who are experiencing, more higher stages of Krishna consciousness, and exemplifying, the next stage that we are going, and and the maybe ultimate goal that we are seeking as well. So hope that answers your question. Okay, I'll stop here. We run out of time. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande,
His Grace Raghunatha Bhatta Prabhu ki
Gaura
Jai.
Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.